What's up, everybody? This is Stacy B. This is my latest movie review. We will be reviewing the film Dumbo. If you are enjoying these reviews, as well as our other content on this channel, particularly those featuring Hollywood and Friends and more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated. Now let's get into this Dumbo review. Dumbo is a live-action film, a remake of the 1941 film of the same name. This live-action version was directed by Tim Burton. He is known for such films like Alice in Wonderland, Beetlejuice, Big Fish, and Batman. Normally, he directs or tackles films that are somewhat dark with their subjects, so it was quite a surprise to some to see him take on the Dumbo character, which is, a kid character. I have to say I enjoyed his approach overall. I felt like I was witnessing a fantasy world. During the World War I era, I tend to like stuff that goes back in time. And the World War era was quite a complex era when it came to the rights of minorities, particularly African Americans and, of course, women. This is a kid movie, so, of course, they did not get too deep with those subjects, but there were a few subtleties present. The Dumbo film focuses on the Ferrier family, Holt, played by Colin Farrell, and his two children, Joe and Millie, played by Finley Hobbins and Nico Parker. The family is enlisted by Max Medici, played by Danny DeVito, to care for circus elephants. A pregnant elephant mother, Jumbo, who gives birth to Jumbo Jr., who would later become Dumbo. The family is alarmed by the floppy ears of Dumbo, and he is immediately looked at as different, which is another running theme of the film, how difference should not matter, how you should embrace your difference. And they soon discover even something more magical about Dumbo, that he can fly. This is soon discovered by the circus owner Medici and soon becomes an attraction of the circus. It attracts audiences and greedy business owners like V.A. Vanderveer, played by Michael Keaton. The major conflict of the story, of course, is that Dumbo's mother is separated from him due to a performance disaster, and the rest of the story involves Dumbo trying to reunite with his mother. I will not spoil, of course, the film with all the details of it, but I will say I enjoyed the heart of the film, particularly from Dumbo. To me, he reminded me of E.T., actually. If you recall, E.T. spent his time wanting to go home. Some of the expressions chosen by the director and his team and just the overall aura of Dumbo reminded me of E.T., just pure-hearted, yet in a foreign world and away from his family, but desperately wanting to reunite with his family, in this case, his mother. I like how the film really showed compassion for animals as well, hitting on how it is perhaps immoral to cage animals and how they are meant to live freely. I enjoyed the actors in the film overall. Danny DeVito shined the most to me. He really captured the essence of an aggressive small business owner who was both brash yet sensitive and showed compassion at the same time. Michael Keaton was a good villain. He reminded me of the villains, I guess, like in the film like Annie. He was somewhat one-dimensional, but a good villain. Colin Farrell and Ava Green, who played Colette, they shine. However, I would say story-wise, I would have wanted to see more of their story of love develop. I also would have wanted to see more of the insecurity Holt felt when it came to his missing arm. He lost his arm in the war, and I felt like when we're speaking on difference, maybe they could have had the Holt character kind of relate more to the Dumbo character when it came to his ears. And how that was different for the Dumbo character, and then Holt missing his arm was also different for him. But, they eventually just embrace that difference and live as they are. The children were delightful. I liked how they were promoting STEM in this film with young girls through the Millie character. She wanted to be a scientist, which was pretty bold of her during this era. I enjoyed the scenes of Dreamland, which of course reminded me of Disneyland, and how they showed the various attractions, including the technology of the future, which of course is the technology, in the film, the technology of the future is the technology we would enjoy decades later. But I felt a sense of nostalgia there, as I recall as a young girl heading to Disneyland and seeing a similar attraction that highlighted the technology of the future. So it was great to see that in the film. You know, it gave a kind of an authenticity to the film, and also showed, I thought it was great to show a young girl in awe of her passion and how she wants to contribute to science and technology. Now, I have to point out some of the race pieces of the film, however. They stood out to me, I believe, perhaps even to a few other audience members and reviewers. First, the fact that Millie is played by Nico Parker, who is a young multiracial or biracial young girl. I believe they tried to hide that fact in the film by kind of straightening her hair, you know, because she has naturally curly hair. She's actually the daughter of Thandie Newton, who's a young black actress or biracial actress. And so, you know, Nico is definitely a woman of color. And of course, she can play any role, and she fit perfectly in this role. However, I did wonder, was Holt's wife black? You know, because to me, I noticed that, you know, Millie was of mixed race. And I'm pretty sure other audience members did as well. To me, you know, they could have maybe slipped that in the story, or maybe they just didn't feel it was necessary. But they could have slipped it in that maybe the mother was multiracial herself, and I don't know. But maybe that would have just been too deep for this type of film. Again, it is a children's movie. Also, I did appreciate that Tim Burton and his team left out the crows from the 1941 version of Dumbo. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not have, but in that version, the crows were pretty much jive-talking crows. And during that era, it was deemed racist, of course, and would definitely look the same during this era. So it was a wise choice to keep them out. However, I understand we have to be authentic to the times. And let's be real, during the World War I era, we were heavy in Jim Crow. So although not overt, I looked at the strongman character, Rongo, played by Diobre Opre. I did look at his character as a slight stereotype, but it was indeed authentic to that era. Young black men with physical strength were looked at as young bucks. And yes, let's keep it real. They were often used in circus settings. And although in the film they kind of kept him quiet, and I believe they even made him an accountant, we can't ignore that stereotype. But I appreciated the balance shown. And honestly, a lot of black performers of the Jim Crow era were highly intelligent, of course, but would play the roles that highlighted the negative stereotypes of black people, like Step and Fetch It, etc. But let me be clear, this film handled the race factor fine. They couldn't ignore the realities of that era, and so that definitely stood out to me. May not stand out to other audience members, but I studied a little bit on how black performers were often stereotyped during particularly the Jim Crow era and on to even the current era. So it just stood out to me, and I'm sure perhaps some select audience members saw that as well. But my favorite theme of the film was regarding how nothing is impossible. Of course, a great theme for kids to learn, but also a great reminder for us adults. The film hit great on how a lot of the fear we have is often internal and not real. So just take a chance and jump, and just maybe you will fly. So great message. Overall, I give Dumbo a 7 out of 10 stars. A solid film, good for the family. Some scenes were a bit dark for young kids, but nothing overtly scary. So it's definitely a good go-to. Definitely support this film. And I thank you for listening to my review. Again, if you like this review as well as the other content on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated. I'll check with you soon next week for another review. Peace.